Welcome to Distilled, the Bourbon Podcast, where we drink bourbon and talk about it. I'm here with my co-host, Brian and Chuck. Fellas, good to see you.
Always.
Good to be here.
Always.
And we have a special guest today, Aaron Nelson, back in the turret. Aaron, great to see you, buddy.
Great to be back. I love sharing bourbon with you guys.
And, man, what a genius this guy is. He pours for you, doesn't he, Brian?
He does, yeah.
Down at,
He's the brains behind the bar at the beverage bar,
That's
and
right.
makes me look good.
I'll tell you what. Well, it's not too hard to do, but he does do a great job
right.
at that. So today, fellas, I hope you brought your big boy shorts. We're trying some heavy duty proof stuff today. Everything is at least 120, I think. Is that right?
There's a 114 in there, I believe.
Okay, well, we'll allow that one in, but some heavy duty stuff. And this episode kind of came as the brainchild. Aaron sends me a text one day. He says, "Hey, man, I've got this bourbon that I think you would like." And it's kind of got a cool story, and he told me about, as much as you can in a text. And I said, okay, I'll buy some if you'll come on and talk about it in a podcast. And he agreed to that. So, Aaron, what are we drinking first here today?
So first we're going to have, it's called Warrior Spirits. And it's the bottle behind Warrior Barrel Society, which is a bourbon group that I happen to be a part of. The group itself it started out as a bunch of friends who wanted to get together and try their hand at single barrel bourbon. Can we throw some funds together and get some single barrels? And it was
some guys that wanted an excuse to drink bourbon.
That's it.
I like the way the story started.
Yes. And so it actually, you hear nothing good came out of COVID. This is something good that came out of COVID.
Go.
It started
Amen.
in COVID. So then it started with a man, his name's Ramon, and his wife Ruth, and then their friends, and it's branched out to be a nationwide bourbon society.
Is that right?
And so these guys are like family. Like they really do. There are two separate groups, really. One is WBS, and that's where all the degenerate like me hang out and talk on Facebook. And then there's a charity group, Warrior Barrel Charity Foundation. And so it started in COVID, where they just wanted to do some whiskey. And then it branched out from there in 2021. They became a actual legit nonprofit 501c3. Their mission is to unify people to raise awareness and funding for charitable organizations across the country by sharing the love of bourbon and philanthropy, hosting special events, and providing unforgettable experiences.
Hey, that's
And
a
so-
pretty good thing to do.
So you're a member?
I'm a member.
Are you're a veteran?
I'm not a veteran, so you don't have to be a veteran to be a
Okay.
member. And so, and they don't necessarily, all the money doesn't necessarily go to veterans.
Okay.
And one of the coolest thing about this group is they get together and when somebody it needs something, they'll throw it out. And I mean, big time. So one of my favorite stories, and the guy's name is Caleb Carr. He lives in Houston, Texas. He manages a cigar bar in Houston, Texas. And one night he was going home from work. He works late and he hit a deer, a 10, 12-point buck, totaled his car. That was on a Friday night. On Saturday, it's posted in Warrior Barrel Society on our Facebook group. Hey, Caleb had a rough accident, and he was literally fighting for his life. I mean, it was bad. And by Sunday, they had raised $18,000 for him.
Wow.
And so, I mean, they literally, guys, just come together. I could bore you with all the bottles they've done, but in 3 years, they've raised $180,000 for charities.
Holy moly.
And so, just a bunch of guys who love bourbon, who do great things for people. Personally, my daughter last year, she had appendicitis, and was in the hospital for 3 days. It was really, really bad. And so we're just sitting there in the hospital and get a email. I thought it was work, so I look at it, and there was $100 gift card from the people that Uber Eats or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so those guys had got together behind my back and
Cool.
got us dinner for the whole
So
time
good
we were there.
people doing good things.
Absolutely.
So they're doing barrel picks at various distilleries, but they have their own label.
They do. So this one is Warrior Spirits, and what that was their take on, hey, can we blend and are people going to like it? And so this is their third iteration. All three of them so far have been beam distillate. They're going through American Bourbon Company out of Shelbyville.
Okay.
Not a whole lot out there about American Bourbon Company. I tried to look them up. They're doing private barrels like Kentucky Ace, Tennessee Ace, Hoosier Ace. That is coming from American Bourbon Company. So it's their way of being able to get distillate without, distilling it themselves. So it's sourced whiskey.
So I'm assuming they're buying a bunch of barrels, and then they're letting Ramon or whomever come and sample those barrels.
That's
so
correct.
they're not going to Jim Beam Distillery.
No, they're not.
Okay.
They're going through American. It's
Gotcha.
basically a bourbon brokerage is what it is.
So we've talked in the last couple of episodes how blending has become really the thing. It's been very cool. It's no longer a nasty word where you're putting some garbage bottom level alcohol in just to bring the volume up. People are blending for taste and quality now.
Yes.
So that's what these guys are doing. And you've had previous iterations of this.
I have had 1 and 2. 3 it went really quick
Okay.
because 1 and 2 were so good, and they've been offered other distillate, but they just keep coming back to the beam.
If it
every
ain't
single
broke,
time.
don't
So,
fix it. Right. All right.
And how many barrels went into this?
That I do not know,
Okay.
Oh, it smells good.
and Ramon wouldn't tell me the age or
You
the
got no
mash
information?
bill or
No.
nothing.
yeah.
I just know it's beam distillate.
Well, that's okay because we're going to have a lot of details available about 2 other bottles. So many details. We won't go into all of it, but
Great.
we'll get a sample of it.
Oh man, that's pretty good.
Kind of smells like Knob Creek on the nose.
How about that?
Well, I wonder why.
Wow.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Like that, Chuck?
I do. 124
Pretty
proof. Once again, classic bourbon flavor. Hope it's bourbon.
yeah, absolutely.
Good.
That does remind me a lot of 124 proof Knob Creek.
Yeah, on the nose, that's all I get is the nose of Knob Creek. Like it's
Our
very
single
similar. Yeah, to our single barrel.
Located at Beverage Barn in Henderson, Kentucky. If you haven't, if you haven't got yours yet, you better hurry because they're flying off the shelf.
So I've become a Knob Creek fan because we have a particular restaurant in Henderson that doesn't have a super extensive bourbon selection. But I saw Knob Creek 9 on the bar and tried it and thought, okay, this is a good place to be.
Right.
So I've had quite a bit of Knob Creek 9 just by virtue of going to, where.
Oh yeah, the R word.
The R word. Yeah.
Does it rhyme with bookies?
Or
So
cookies.
or cookies, either one. This is pretty doggone good. I did
Sure
put a
is.
little splash of water in there for me, just to see what the difference would be, and it's delicious. That's fantastic, man. I'd buy that.
I would buy that.
By the way, I did buy the Knob Creek. Is it 18 year that you guys
Yes.
had a few bottles
Yep.
of?
And that's a allocated bottle. You can't find it every day on the shelf. So if you see it and you're willing to spend close to $200 on it, then by all means get it.
Yeah, it's delicious.
Yeah.
This is a good, absolutely good pick.
That is tasty, man.
They know what they're doing, and it's Ramon and his wife, and I always give her credit for all this, for
As
all
you
of it,
should.
because Ramon, he just drinks bourbon. She does all the tasting.
So, I always find it interesting what they put on the back of the bottle.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have to be true. It doesn't have to be meaningful. You can make it up
Right.
if you wanted to. But I feel like they've captured, I hate to use the word spirit. They captured the intent of what this group is trying to do. It says the time of the warrior is like the time of learning discipline, of concentration of the body, mind, and spirit. The spirit is for the warriors who have served this great nation. We thank you for your service and sacrifice. And man, what a nice tribute. And we would mirror that here at Distilled Bourbon Podcast. That's just, it's a good drink and a good good group of folks that are doing good things.
And this is available at Beverage Barn?
No, this one is. There is no more bottles of this one available.
Is it typically?
Is it sometimes available at stores?
No, it is not. So
you got to be a member?
No, what they do is on there, they have an open Facebook page, the Warrior Barrel Society, charitable organization. I got to get it all in there. That is a open group for anybody, and he posts every single barrel that they do on that link. Now, there are some of the single barrels that are specific for the private group, but with all of those, they're still going to charity. One of my favorite bottles we had was an Elijah Craig pick. Just a regular, of course, it was Elijah Craig, but all the money went to autism. And so the sticker on the back was the bears from, was it Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, which, and had the puzzle pieces from autism. And so it was one
Grateful
of the
Dead. I think is what
Grateful Dead. That's the one. And, but they've done 57 barrel picks, and not all of them full barrels. They go in a lot with other groups and split it or triplet or thirded, I guess I should say, and with other liquor stores. So
typical price point?
This one was $89.99, I believe, $79.99. So
that's a nice value.
And then $15 of that was a donation. So every bottle comes with a donation price.
Is there a fee to join the organization?
No fee at all.
And you haven't told me about this before. Why?
No, right? And you can.
Because he only sent it to his best friends.
But they also, like, with that, there is a spot that you can just on the Facebook page that you can just go on and donate to their organization, and all the money, like I said, goes to help various organizations.
Well, let's do that. Let's ask our listeners to go on that Facebook page, and we'll try to post it on the YouTube video, and we'll put it in the notes of the audio only. Let's go out there and let's do some good stuff, man. It's that time of year to be thinking about that. It's always that time of year, but drink some bourbon and do something for some people that need it.
It's a very good picture of what the bourbon community really is. It's a bunch of guys getting together, enjoying a pour, getting behind an organization or getting behind a cause, and it's
essentially why the Men's Bourbon Society was created.
Yeah.
Yep. In Henderson, at least.
So, do you have some of this in your glass?
I'm going to.
Okay.
Tell us what we're drinking next, Chuck.
So this is Rabbit Hole. If you've heard our broadcast or podcast, I'm a fan of Rabbit Hole for a variety of reasons. I like their products, both the bourbon and the rye. They're all finished. I think the bourbons typically are finished in a sherry cask. I think the ryes are typically finished in a rye cask. Awfully tasty, always available, reasonable price. You don't have to run into the woods looking for unicorns to have a very nice product. This particular bottle I found at the Kentucky Bourbon Festival in Bardstown. Went to the Rabbit Hole booth. This is called the Tempest. I think they've had it for multiple years. This is one from 2023. This is one of their single barrel bourbons. It is finished in Pedro Jimenez sherry casks. Pedro Jimenez is a type of grape raised in Spain. Super duper sweet, and they make a fortified wine from it. So it's got a punch to it. Super sweet. Anyway, I love Rabbit Hole. I had been at the Bourbon Festival for a while and was feeling generous with my credit card, and found this
That's
just
a good way to put it.
Absolutely beautiful bottle.
It's a very cool label.
It is. In fact, I have strict instructions from my wife to be sure to bring this bottle home, preferably with some product in it, but definitely bring the bottle home because we have a friend who makes candles out of wine and bourbon bottles, and I think maybe we need to get one of these for our home. Anyway, so this is 112.5 proof. So it's single barrel. It's cask strength. So I've been to Rabbit Hole. I don't know what they at what proof they barrel their product, but for a cask strength, 112.5, it's on the lower side.
I think it's 110.
So it came out of the cask at 112.5.
Yes.
peerless. We talked about it earlier. They also go in at a pretty low proof, and there's arguments for that. Anyway, it's a beautiful bottle, but that's not the reason to buy it. I had a chance to sample it and just thought it was spectacular. You've got to like a finished bourbon if you're going to like this. Mm-hmm. I don't object. I often like. I like Rabbit Hole a lot. I think it's a fantastic.
Now, you and I have talked several times about Rabbit Hole, and you know that my first experience was not pleasant with Rabbit Hole.
Same here.
Because they were, I guess they were sourcing or something.
Good. They were, or so I'm told. We went when the distillery first offered tours. They're located in Louisville they're on Walnut Main Street.
All I know is it's behind Evergreen Liquors downtown.
Oh, baby. This is
Evergreen, interesting liquor store.
This is different from the first Rabbit Hole I tried.
So
it's very unique.
Oh, man.
When we first toured Rabbit Hole 8 or 10 years ago, I don't think we bought any product. We went again a couple of years ago, and it knocked my socks off. And I asked our tour guide, look, we went here before, and it wasn't much, but what you have today is sensational. The Derringer, the High Gold, this is fantastic. And he said, well, what you had was probably not our stuff. They had sourced it, and I'm sure from a reputable distillery, but it didn't impress me. This has made me a big fan, and this has made me a big fan.
So I had the opportunity to try the White Dog.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, man, it is phenomenal. And then when it's
not lighter fuel.
No, not at all. I don't remember what the proof was, but I could just drink it. I mean,
and that's very telling of what the end product could potentially be if the White Lightning is drinkable.
Yes,
at least, because most White Lightning off the tap isn't. So.
And I'm a big beer guy, and their distillate, as it's being made into distiller's beer, is a Belgian beer through and through.
How about
green apple? I mean, the yeast. Oh, it's just fantastic.
I like White Dog.
I do too,
generally speaking. So this is going to be it's a sweeter product. Mm-hmm. It's coming out of this very sweet. Good. It's being finished in this very sweet sherry cask.
Yeah,
and not just any sherry, but a super sweet sherry cask. For someone who wants like an old fashioned, who wants a little bit of sweetness added to it, well, Rabbit Hole has done the work for you. I just love this, and I think the price on it was $75 or something.
Wow,
like that.
That's awesome. I'd buy it all day.
It might have been 90, but it was nothing that made me shudder at all. And obviously, we obviously opened it. The Bourbon Festival was in September.
Yes.
So it's probably been 6 weeks ago. So we didn't just stick a couple of straws in it and start guzzling it, but we're about halfway through. We're about halfway through. And apparently Tempest is available on a regular basis. I don't know if you ever have the Tempest.
We've never had it.
Mm-mm.
You typically have the regular Derringer, the regular High Gold.
2 or 3 varietals that they offer. Yep, we typically have those.
I think they typically have a couple of bourbons and
2
a rye.
bourbons and 1 rye, I believe.
I think that's right. And I think that the names are drawn from historic figures in Louisville. One of them was like a stonemason in the 1800s or something like that. Don't recall the whole story. Fun distillery to visit, to tour. There is a hotel that I think is going to be constructed right next door. Some great restaurants nearby.
So they have the rooftop bar. Is that correct? Okay. So
they have a top floor bar for sure where you
can go outside. It's a very small space.
It's not huge, but
compared to most distilleries, yeah.
So that was
it's a great view of the skyline of Louisville.
Okay, I thought that's where I went. So they have the best old fashioned I've ever had.
Absolutely.
At their
phenomenal.
bar. It is excellent. Yes. So if you get back there,
now you just said the best old fashioned you ever had. That has piqued my interest. So they're using Rabbit Hole rye to make an old fashioned?
They were using a rye,
and it's just your standard orange, sugary awesomeness of bourbon.
I wish I would watch them make the old fashioned. I didn't, and I was in a hurry. I got there, I had 1 drink, and then I had to get on my way. But it was excellent
syrup, and then the oranges are soaked. They don't say what they're soaked and then smoked or dried.
Wow,
I think it's dried, but they won't.
They won't tell you what they're soaked in.
I would say it's some type of orange liqueur. I mean, but they don't say. But it is.
Have you tried to reproduce this, Mr. Barman?
I'm trying as best I can, and they're their cast strength rye is phenomenal too. I don't remember so they have a bottle that's released. It's not the president. So Race King was the chocolate, but what is it's not proprietors. I don't know what it's called, but it's a certain bottle they release every year around what I call tater time, when everybody is ready to get their bottles.
About this time of the year.
About now.
Tater time.
But and one year it was a cask strength rye, and probably the best rye I've ever had.
Really? Well, this is fantastic.
So regular Rabbit Hole bourbon, I think it's going to sell for about 65, and I think the rye typically is going to retail for about 80. I think they're really good products, and Brent references this now and then. They don't give us this bourbon; we actually buy this bourbon.
Absolutely,
this is off of our personal shelf, off my personal credit card, or
we have zero affiliations.
If you send us bourbon, though, we won't.
We will drink it. We'll try it,
but it's never happened before. So far, all the bourbon that
we're in year 3. At some point, it might happen. Who knows?
If we go on and on about loving Casey Jones or loving Green River or loving Rabbit Hole, it's
Reverend Rabbi, don't leave him out.
Reverend Rabbi, it's coming from the heart. And if you haven't tried Rabbit Hole, you ought to. And if you can try some of these specialty bottles, the single barrel cast strength, what do you guys think of it?
I would buy this in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
Yeah,
Ryan's not a finished fan though.
I'm not.
So I want to hear his opinion.
So I like it. One pour, and I'd move on to something else. A bottle, would I buy it? Yes, I'd buy it to drink a pour with a friend, and then move on to something else that's not as sweet.
I could see you having this for someone who is not into cask strength, just yet, and it would get them, because at 112 proof, it's not that far off. When you're thinking about other cask strength, it doesn't taste like
112 proof.
Not at all. It comes in close to what I feel is 100.
Well, we're heading that way. Let me tell you, we're going to the other end of the spectrum, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to Booker's.
Ooh.
Bean product that's been around for a while. It's highly sought after. Comes out once a year?
4 times a year.
4 times a year. And it goes pretty fast, does it not,
it does,
Brian?
very fast.
You posted this on your Facebook page, and I got there as fast as I could to get one. And I don't know if you have any left or not.
Nope.
They're not cheap, but they go quickly. And there's a reason. This is Fred Knows, continuation of Mr. Booker's blend.
Booker
correct?
No.
Yeah.
So the No, you probably know this, but the No family married into the Beam family. So the Noes, that's like N-O-E, that's Beam bloodstock.
Right.
Freddie is the 7th or 8th generation of the family. Booker No was his dad. And
Freddie is Fred's son.
Yeah.
Oh,
so there's Fred. There's Booker.
His granddad.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
There's Booker. There's Fred, and there's Freddie, who is also known as Little Book.
Yes, and
who has a son named Booker.
Really?
How confusing is that?
Give me more bourbon, I'll tell you.
And we're going to get to Little Book here. So did Freddie or Fred originate the Booker blend?
I think Booker did, didn't he?
No, Booker did.
Okay.
And then
So
Booker originally gave it to family and friends.
Yeah.
That's right.
And then he, I believe 1988, shortly after Blanton's was released, he took it to the market.
I know a lot less about the Beam products than you guys do, but this particular example. So this has been around for 35 years.
Yeah.
Okay. This will actually be my first taste of Booker. So
I will say they did change it. So it used to be just Booker's, and now there's batches. So now there's 4 different batches each year.
Okay.
So that changed in 2016, 2017.
So it used to be just released once a year as Booker's, or was it?
It was just a shelfer.
Oh, it was on the shelf.
Just
wow.
Yeah, and they
Booker's was the rye is what set them apart when that rye.
I don't think that's something part. I think whenever they made it batches, like people look at certain batches, and I think that's what made it more
A novelty.
sought after.
Yeah.
As opposed to just putting just a regular Bookers out there or Bakers or whatever.
So this is a blended bourbon, and I mean a lot of bourbons are blended, but they're like we keep going back to Maker's Mark. The traditional Maker's Mark bottle might be a blend of some amount of 5-year-old and some amount of 6-year-old and some amount of 7-year-old. But the folks at Beams, the nose have taken it to a whole nother level. Just to give you, I'm not going to read the whole formula, but this says 2% of this product came from the 5th floor of the 7-story warehouse Q. And 8% came from the 5th floor of the 9-story warehouse G. And 10% came from the 5th floor of the 9-story warehouse H, and 55% came from the 5th floor of the 7-story warehouse 3. And I didn't even name all of them. So they are, well,
holy moly.
They are blending.
And they are master blending. And we don't even know what ages those are. We'll know more when we get to
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Chuck, but what is the proof on this? 126 or something like that? It's hot. It's not what you want to give to the first time.
It's 126.6.
Yeah. You don't want to give this to the person that's never had bourbon before.
And this one is the 2303.
Mm-hmm.
So it is
That was the
Mighty Fine batch. The Mighty Fine batch.
They name each batch. Each batch has its own name.
Man, one of my favorites was the Country Ham batch. It was so, I mean, it didn't taste like country ham, but that, you know.
Well, let me tell you, this one tastes mighty fine.
Mighty fine. That's the reason. I think that's what it is. They taste it and then kind of whatever comes to
I think
their
that
mind.
was Booker's kind of catchphrase.
It was.
If I read that correctly, but this is mighty fine. This is delicious.
Oh, man.
I'm going to add a little water to open that up.
So we recently did a Knob Creek pick. Aaron, were you on that?
Yes.
You were on that pick. So we went to the experimental area of the Jim Beam distillery, and they spoke about Booker No and how above his time he was in the bourbon industry, how he had all these barrels set aside for these different things that he wanted to create or do. And, of course, he couldn't do that on the premise. So he had it off-site where all the corporate executives couldn't see or know what he was doing. And that's where all these barrels that are being released today, you know, like the rye and the, 25th anniversary, that's where he was housing them.
So Booker's just pushing this barrel out the gate, telling security nothing to see here.
No. Load that in the F-150 and we'll see y'all later.
That's exactly right.
Aaron, what are you tasting there, man? You
Man,
like that?
It's so sweet. It's so I have been kind of disappointed in the recent Booker's batches. I thought it tasted I thought it was overhyped. Most of them, there wasn't a whole lot of character. This one is very complex. There's a lot of oak and like cake frosting on the nose. And then there's citrus in that. I think that's the best Booker's I've had in 2 years.
Wow.
I've not had a Booker's that I've really enjoyed. I've had Booker's before, but there's not one that was this good to me.
I'm with you 100%.
And I think Beam is coming along. Maybe I'm getting more used to what they're putting out there, but I was never a big Beam fan. But sign me up, Coach. I'm liking this.
And they're doing some interesting stuff with their experimental warehouse, doing some malted ryes and some malting of different grains, and there's going to be some cool stuff coming out of that.
Isn't that interesting that both Beam and Buffalo Trace are doing that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think they see the future. They're looking into the future. What's coming?
Driven by the craft breweries.
It has been
by the craft distilleries, right, Chuck?
Yeah, you can't live on white label forever.
You're right.
Well, good for them. I have been largely ignorant of the Beam family stuff. I have several friends, you, Michael, big Beam fans. Until Knob Creek came along, nothing had really turned my head. This is cool.
This is good.
Yep.
Have you all had the chance to go to their American or the kitchen table? The
I have
restaurant
not. No.
there
Yes.
on Beam. Oh man.
Yep.
If you get the chance, that's a great spot.
It's open to the public.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just walk in and the food's amazing. They do wood-fired pizza and all kinds of stuff. And
It's pubish.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you don't even if you go to Bourbon Country and you can't get in on a tour, you can go there and they have all the products. You could taste them. You could buy cocktails. They're bartenders. The head bartender is from Owensboro.
Is that
really,
right?
really cool guy. So yeah, if you get a chance, stop up there and see them.
Okay, so I've never been to Beam. I've driven by it. It's in Frankfort, right?
Claremont,
Claremont.
Kentucky, near Bardstown,
Near Bardstown.
just off Interstate 65.
Okay. So I've never been there. I assume they have tours.
Oh, yes.
Have you been on that tour, Chuck?
I have.
Is it one that you would go to again, or have you seen enough of it?
I've toured once on a public tour, and once we did a barrel pick. Okay, something that kind of disappointed me was when it came time for the tasting. They give you a credit card, and you go up to like a vending machine or a soda fountain or something like that. It wasn't
Wait
quite.
a minute, it's not a real person telling you the stories behind.
Well, you hear as you do the tour, you have a real tour guide. But when it came there might be different versions of the tour. One that we went on, we basically had a magnetic card, and you got 5 pours. And if you go to this machine, you get this. You go to this machine, you got that. So it was not the most romantic version.
I think that might have been due to COVID, because
Could be.
since I have gone on the tour, they lead you through so you would taste their standard products, and then at the end you get a chance to taste one of your choice, Legion, Booker's. I forgot they and it changes based on what's available, and it was so funny because everybody wanted to try Legion our tour was sold out, and everybody wanted Legion. And I was like, when Michael was sitting beside me and he said, "Don't get the Legion, there's Booker's," and I said, "Oh." And the guy sitting in front of us was from Florida, and he'd never tasted bourbon in his life. Michael said, "You want to try that Booker's?"
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
And that was amazing because he had tasted it. He was like,
Did he do it with an evil smile on his face? That's all I have to say.
He's hitting me under the table, and he talked him into it.
Michael seemed like such a sweet guy.
Most of the time.
So I hope that's the case. That was.
They have all kinds of tours now. You can get a make your own cocktail tour, and they'll teach you how to make a cocktail.
Well, I'm waiting for the Aaron Nelson how to make an old fashioned and a Manhattan and maybe a couple of other at the beverage barn. Is that going to happen sometime?
Oh man, we can do
That
it.
sounds like a podcast to me.
That sounds like
Hey,
we can do that at 612 right here. Okay. Well, we've covered a lot of the no family tree, but let's summarize. We're going to turn back to Freddie now. Fred's son, little book. And this is one of my buddy Kevin's finds. He was walking through Costco, and he happened to pass a guy carrying a box that said Little Book, and he says, "Hey,
What's that?
what you got in there?"
Yeah.
And he ended up buying like a case of Little Book at Costco for next to nothing. And it's like, you can't find this stuff anywhere. And we had this at the lake house, and it was kind of, other than the fact that he gave me food poisoning and I was sick as a dog, it was one of the highlights of our visit. It was a fantastic visit from beginning to end, but it was just, I told him that I never had Booker's before, and I hadn't had a lot of Beam products. And so he shows up with this little book, and he tells me it's kind of a wink and a nod to Booker's from Freddie's. So maybe you guys know more about that than I do, but this is Freddie's blended version, and it has 7 different products in it. Is that right?
Okay,
Chuck?
I will go ahead and read this 2-point font. Now we don't know the percentages, but this includes. I believe this is what they call it, Chapter 7.
Chapter 7.
Yeah, this is Chapter 7.
This is the 2023 release.
I think it is.
It is.
So it is Chapter
And
7.
they call this. Yes, this is Chapter 7. In retrospect, I thought they called this Storyteller because I thought that Booker was such a great storyteller. Anyway, just to give you an idea, this is made from a blend of 18-year-old Kentucky Straight Bourbon whiskey, Beam. Something from Beam. 17-year-old Kentucky Straight Bourbon whiskey, a 10-year-old Kentucky Straight Rye whiskey, a 9-year-old Kentucky Straight Bourbon whiskey, a 5-year-old straight malt whiskey, finished in Applewood smoked barrels, some 4-year-old straight bourbon whiskey, might be white label, and some 4-year-old Kentucky Straight rye whiskey. So we've got bourbon, we got rye, we've got malt whiskey. Just to be upfront, I love malted. I'm not a malt whiskey fan. I love it as the component in bourbon and rye to make all the chemistry work. But in terms of just malt whiskey,
So you're not a Scotch fan, is that?
you are correct, my friend.
I am not a Scotch fan.
Really? Man, I've gotten in the Scotch
The peated Scotch or single malts?
all either.
Well,
all
you're
of.
welcome. You can have my share.
Yeah, we call this more for you.
And more bourbon for us.
So, fellas knows this. Tell me if this is not a great nose.
There's that malt. You get it.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's earthy.
It's like dust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it doesn't taste Scotchy to me.
Think about like what I get is you walk into the Rick House
Yeah.
and all that musk, all that.
Whether it's musk or dust, yeah,
It smells like a rick house.
And there is something on the back end, it's not mint, but it's from the rye. It's that earthiness. Chuck doesn't like it.
Chuck
No. I do.
Chuck is
I'm actually just having.
that's his thinking face.
I tasted something green.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's that rye. Yes.
What do you think, Brian? Is this something you like? No, he doesn't like it, guys.
Come back to me and
Okay,
the next
Aaron, what do you think? Does this surprise you?
No, that's that. Yeah, that it does surprise me. That's the closest thing to a Isla Scotch that you're going to find in the United States.
Well, I'm not the Scotch fan, but I'm a fan of this.
I am a fan of this too.
I'm a big time fan.
So I'm a lone wolf here. I don't
no.
really care
Okay,
for
you
it.
can pour it in my glass. I'll be
Three
glad to
different
take it.
samples. It's not my thing. The Booker's, in my opinion, was far superior.
You're not a malted. I mean, you're not a malt fan though.
No, not at all.
Well, there you go. That just kind of shows you, everybody has their own taste and you like what you like.
I can see why you guys hit this little book pretty hard.
Oh, we hit it hard. Yeah, you can see there's not much left.
Yeah.
I will say, if you have the opportunity to find Little Book Chapter 3, it is a cherry soda bomb.
Yeah.
And I would only know that because I won it in one of the raffles in our.
Is that right?
Yeah. So I paid.
Is it rigged? Is the raffle rigged?
No. Yeah. Right. None of the raffles are rigged. So I paid it for $5. I paid $5 to get in, and
So it wasn't our raffle then.
Wasn't one of our raffles.
Oh, okay.
No.
I was gonna say.
So for Warrior Barrel Society, all the money was going to Gary Sinise's foundation, I think. And I was like, man, that's a good foundation. I'll buy one ticket, and it was for $5. And I ended up winning 3 bottles for $5.
Man,
the package I won came from somebody in North Carolina, and Little Book Chapter 3 was in it, and he sent a note that said, "You'll like this one. You could thank me later." And I have this much. I am nursing it. And after having this, I may go home and finish it.
I am very impressed with Little Book. I think it's easy to say, well, this is a gimmick, and so many different combinations. There's 8 different iterations of rye and malt and bourbon, but man,
I think he just made what he wanted, what he likes.
He made what I like.
Yeah,
he did.
There you
It's
go.
delicious.
So just to review, this is about 110 No, you said about 90.
About 90, yeah.
About 90, and a lot of that goes to charity. This, my dim recollection from being at the Bourbon Festival in the rain, I think this was around 75, 80. I would buy it in a heartbeat. I get it. It's pretty sweet. Nice thing about it is if you just want to have a taste, one's probably as much as you want to have.
Oh, for sure.
At a time.
Yeah.
Because it's, I don't like too much sweet. You don't like too much sweet. I like this once. Booker, I have no idea what the price tag is. 110?
100.
Yep.
$100.
$99.99.
Yeah. And Little Book?
I want to say about 150. Is that
$59.99.
159? Okay.
Why does the good stuff cost so much?
Because it's good.
Well, I would take the 99 over the 159. That's just my personal opinion.
Do you have Little Book at your store left?
Maybe for you, Brent. Just maybe. Just don't.
No.
I love this man.
Edit.
Brent,
Edit.
I'm sorry. We don't.
We don't?
No, because I would get it before you do, because I'm going there right now. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I would buy any of these again. These were fantastic bourbons. I love all of them. I'm surprised because they're really above my proof level that I'm kind of that 100 proof guy.
Okay.
I love Bottle and Bond.
Yeah. And these are all, in the teens or the 20s.
112, and everything else I think is 120.
120.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But these are some fantastic bourbons. If you can find them, pick them up. And, again, do something good. We'd love for you to donate to this organization, the Warriors Spirit Group. What's the name of it again?
Warrior Barrel Charity Foundation.
Warrior Barrel Charity Foundation.
I'm joining up.
And I'm going to join as well. And do something good and drink some good bourbon. And the rest of these are just fantastic.
This was a nice podcast.
This was a great podcast.
I'm sorry you guys couldn't have been with us. Well, you were, but you weren't.
But you weren't.
Exactly. So, with that said, I'm glad we're not drinking anymore, because I wouldn't be able to say, please drink responsibly.